The wedding day, the fiancé showed up with another girl. He even brought out the marriage certificate. He said to me, "The one I truly love is her. Don't think you can replace her." My brother, who has always spoiled me, is also on her side. He said, "You have enjoyed wealth for over 20 years. This time, let Oliver be with her." I quietly walked away. My brother and fiancé finally felt relieved. They frequently brought her to various important occasions. My brother even recognized her as his god sister, helping her gain fame later. Someone mentioned me. Only then did they realize I had gone to the border. I no longer needed them. They later felt regret. The day the Smith family held a banquet for their adopted daughter, I was filling out the application form in my hand. This is a national confidential mission. It requires over 20 people to be sent to the border for execution. I was originally not selected. It was just because I am a lady of the Smith family. In New York, everyone knows I grew up in privilege. I have a brother who loves me, and a husband I grew up with. Therefore, I wouldn't have been considered for such a dangerous task. But just the day before submitting my application, I firmly took the form. I repeatedly assured my teacher, "I will definitely complete this mission. I will not back down even a step. Teacher, please promise me. This is a decision I've thought through carefully. It's not a moment of impulse." I was abandoned at the wedding a couple of days ago. After that, rumors about me started spreading. My teacher also heard about these things. She worries that I acted on a whim and am being foolish. But when it comes to matters of the nation, even if my family has influence, it cannot allow me to act recklessly. Sophia, have you really thought this through? The border is not a good place. You grew up in privilege. Once you get there, no one will take care of you or indulge you like before. Don't regret it when the time comes, even if you cry. No one will feel sorry for you. The teacher's tone became stern to make me understand the seriousness of the situation. His tone grew more severe. I quickly put away my pen. I said to the teacher, "Teacher, I understand the seriousness of the situation. Don't worry, I know how to keep things in balance. Don't you know me yet? Since I entered the school, I often get good grades, especially when participating in public welfare activities. I always manage to complete tasks excellently. So this time, for the secret mission of graduation, logically, I should have a part in it." The teacher helplessly rubbed his forehead. In the end, he still agreed. "Okay, as long as you are aware. We will set off tomorrow afternoon, go back and prepare." He didn't say anything more. I took a deep breath. I raised my hand to shield my eyes from the glaring sunlight. My mood has been chaotic these past few days, because a few days ago, Oliver brought back an orphan girl at our wedding. I heard she grew up in an orphanage. Although life was tough, she remained strong. This is actually a good quality, but she married my fiancé, right at my wedding. She replaced me as his wife. Suddenly, I became the laughingstock of New York, under everyone's gaze. Everyone thought that my brother, who has always pampered and loved me, would stand up for me, but he walked over to that orphan girl, looking at her with deep sympathy. "Sophia, you have already lived over 20 years of happiness. Emily has nothing. Oliver, just give her up. Consider it a sister's love for her younger sister. I stepped back in surprise. The white long dress swayed with my movement. I accidentally stepped on the hem of my dress. He fell comically. "That's right. It's my sister. I've decided to adopt Emily. From now on, she will be your sister. Our second young lady of the Smith family. Emily. Really?" I lifted my bewildered eyes. My elbow was bleeding from the injury. My brother not only ignores me, but he also wants to adopt a woman who embarrasses me. Let her share our surname? How ironic. I never expected the proud miss of the Smith family would end up like this. Let's see if she dares to look down on others again. Which young lady lives like she does, not only publicly humiliated by her fiancé, but also neglected by her own brother. In the end, the situation of a dignified young lady is even worse than that of an orphan. Haha, this is too funny. One laugh after another surrounded me. I instinctively searched for my brother and Oliver in the crowd, but they were only focused on comforting Emily, not even a glance in my direction. That day, I can't remember how I made my way home. For the past 20 years, I have always been adored, but I never became arrogant because of it. Even a puppy by the roadside, I would stop and show concern for it. I really can't understand. What exactly did I do wrong? Suddenly, I was betrayed and hurt by the two people I loved the most. Like the protagonist in a novel who has everything taken away, I lost all love and glory. And after I left, my brother started to grandly promote the banquet for the adopted daughter. He wants to elevate her status, so she can marry into the Oliver family with pride. Oliver was particularly happy. That night, the Oliver family set off a lot of fireworks. Major media outlets were comparing me to Emily. In no time, I became the topic of everyone's discussion. Sophia asked me, "Are you going to attend the banquet? Why aren't you driving?" I was lost in thought. A familiar car stopped beside me. The window slowly rolled down. Lily poked her head out. She covered her mouth, a bit embarrassed, and said, "Sorry, I forgot that your relationship with your family isn't great right now." She has always been known for her arrogance in the circle. But when I looked at her, I felt that compared to Emily, Lily seemed almost angelically gentle. "Get in the car. I'll give you a ride." The young lady didn't feel uncomfortable at all. She opened the car door and directly pulled me into the car. I didn't even have a chance to say I didn't want to go. I was taken to a makeup studio. Let me tell you, I absolutely hate this adopted daughter act. You are the true lady of the Smith family. You must dress yourself up beautifully. Stand out more than that scheming girl. Hurry up and come over. Time is running out. I'll call the makeup artist to get you ready quickly. Lily pushed me onto the chair to sit properly. Then a nervous girl walked out from behind. Her face was pale. Her eyes, innocent like a fawn, were filled with tears. Her lips were tightly pressed together. She looked like she had suffered a great injustice. She called out softly, "Big sister." As soon as she finished speaking, my sleeve was suddenly pulled. "Sophia, so you were talking about Emily behind her back. Is this how you act as a big sister? I let you read so many books, and you wasted them all. No wonder Emily isn't popular. It turns out you've been causing trouble behind her back." Someone shouted loudly. My clothes were torn. Cold wind was blowing in. "James, who told you I was bad-mouthing your sister? Or are you saying it yourself? You, the young master of the Smith family. At such a young age, my ears are already failing. If I don't need it, maybe I should just donate it. I have always been the strong-willed type. In the past, James always spoiled me. He thought it was my little indulgence. Now, he shot me a disdainful glance. He casually grabbed a tissue to wipe his hands. "Sophia, you can be angry, but there should be limits." He threw the tissue into the trash can. I felt a pang in my heart. He is looking down on me. Just because I grabbed his sleeve earlier, now he even has to wipe his palms. It's really ironic. The brother who once promised me the whole world. In the end, he stood against me. He betrayed me along with everyone else. "Sophia, apologize." A cold voice came from the other side. I turned my head to look. Oliver had also arrived. At this moment, he was comforting Emily in his arms. "It's quite lively here. What if I don't apologize?" I stared into Oliver's eyes. With a firm tone, his eyebrows slightly moved. "Sophia, you know my methods. If you don't want today's events to be made public, it's best to apologize." He's threatening me, but I have no backing. The Oliver family has a huge influence. If I cooperate with the Smith family again, my days in New York might not be easy. Moreover, I don't want to drag Lily down. She was just being kind. I shouldn't have involved her. "I'm sorry." After saying those 3 words, my heart felt like it stopped for a moment. It hurt so much that I wanted to cry. I continued speaking. "Why apologize? I was the one who said it. If there's any problem, just come to me directly." Lily slowly began to react. I stood sideways in front of her. I said to Emily, "I'm sorry. I shouldn't speak ill of you. Is this okay?" I glanced at my brother. Then I looked at Oliver again. "I hope they can accept my apology. Don't make things difficult for Lily anymore." Lily was tugging at my sleeve vigorously. Emily looked up at me. "Sister, it's really okay. It was I who took your place. I'm the one who should apologize. Don't be mad at me. Okay, I just really want a home." Emily started crying again as she spoke. Oliver looked particularly distressed. He shot me an angry glare. Then he gently comforted her. "You are so kind. All of this is what you deserve. Don't worry. From now on, I will be your family. Brother James will take care of you too. Stop crying." "Okay, Emily. Look quickly. This is the crown I specially took a picture of for you." James hurriedly took a gift box from his assistant behind him. I noticed the assistant's gaze was quite complex. I followed the line of his wrist. I held my breath. "That is the crown my mother left for me. She once said, 'Only the daughters of the Smith family are worthy of it in this world.' So before my parents passed away, they repeatedly reminded James to take good care of me, to protect me, especially this crown. It must be ensured that it appears intact at my wedding." Wait a moment. James was about to place the crown on Emily's head. I immediately stepped forward and said, "Brother, this is what mother left for me." I wanted to use the title brother to remind us of our kinship. But James sneered and said, "Sophia, can you stop trying to compete for everything? So what if it's something that mother left for you? Haven't you used things that I gave you all these years? What's wrong with me taking your crown? Besides, Mom only mentioned the daughter of the Smith family back then. Now Emily is also a part of our family. This is such an important occasion tonight. What harm is there in letting her be?" I watched him with that indifferent look on his face. I clenched my fists tightly. Teardrops fell down. No way. I will never let Mom's things fall into someone else's hands. I can give up everything else. The identity of the Smith family's fiancé, and all that wealth and glory. I can let that go. But this, absolutely not, because it is filled with Mom's love. "Sister, if you want it, I will return it to you." Emily reluctantly held the crown and stepped forward. I strode over, ready to take it, but my body suddenly flew backward. Oliver kicked me. The kick landed right on my waist. It hurt so much that I coughed a few times. He said, "Didn't you hear what Brother James said? This thing belongs to Emily once it's given to her. Sophia, can you show a little compassion all these years? Haven't you received enough already? Give it back to me. It hurts so much I'm gasping, but I still keep pushing forward." Oliver glanced at me. He said calmly, "Let's go. If she wants to pretend, let her pretend." Emily timidly nodded while hiding in his arms. Lily wanted to come over and help me. I shook him off directly. "Give it back to me." James walked at the back. I grabbed his pant leg. "Bro, I'm begging you. Please give it back to me. That was something left to me by my mom. Have you forgotten?" I cried with tears streaming down my face. James impatiently shook his leg. His movement caused me to bump into the nearby bench again. "Ouch!" I cried out in pain. My forehead was drenched in cold sweat. James's eyes flickered for a few seconds. Emily turned her head and said, "Brother, let's go." I saw the pain in James's eyes vanish in an instant. He once loved me and truly cared for me. He treated me like a sister. But in front of Emily, this love seemed insignificant. Lily saw that everyone had left, so she helped me sit on the sofa. She whispered, "Why do you have to make it so difficult for yourself, Sophia? I have always regarded you as a rival. Don't cry. What good is crying? Go take back what belongs to you. Show Emily what you're made of. Let her understand who the true lady of the Smith family is." I shook my head, stubbornly wiping away my tears. "Help me with my makeup. I'm about to leave. Why bother with them, with my small frame, if I get hit a few more times? I really don't know if I can continue to complete this task. The best way is not to confront them head on. I just feel a bit sorry for my late mother. Stand up straight. Let's go. The Smith family is bustling tonight. Many big names from the finance industry are here. There are also quite a few celebrities present. I heard these are all people Emily likes. Your brother personally invited them. The level of luxury here even surpasses your coming-of-age ceremony." Lily's words touched my heart again. I rubbed my aching waist. This time, I didn't argue anymore. She was right. I'm not here to cause trouble for Emily today. I just want to take my things and conveniently complete the last task James entrusted to me. He and Oliver both hope I can give Emily some face. Since that's the case, then here I am. Let's welcome the second young lady of the Smith family, Emily. As soon as the host finished speaking, Emily walked out under the lights. James and Oliver stood beside her, like two knights guarding a princess. Especially the crown on her head. It seemed as if it would glow. "It looks beautiful. Young Master Oliver indeed matches Emily better. This second young lady seems much gentler, unlike Sophia. She's completely unreasonable. If I were young Master Oliver, I would also choose the second young lady without hesitation. After all, she is so favored. What bloodline doesn't matter at all. With every word from the person beside me, my heart tightens even more. So is it still my fault, is it, that I didn't do well enough? Not considerate enough? Sister." Emily tilted her head and thought for a moment. Then she gently walked in front of me. Suddenly, she knelt down. She said softly, "Sister, don't believe their words, I know. I took away your affection. Can you forgive me? I promise to treat you better than your brother and Oliver from now on. Can you accept that?" She held a glass of red wine. Her face showed a look of tension. James tightly gripped the glass of red wine in his hand. Oliver's gaze seemed to burn a hole through me. "I understand. If I don't agree, don't expect to leave the Smith family smoothly tomorrow." "All right." I bent down, preparing to grab Emily's wine glass. Unexpectedly, she held on tightly, and then she suddenly yanked it back. The red wine immediately flowed down her forehead. It dripped onto her clothes. "Sophia!" Oliver shouted angrily twice. He raised his hand and slapped me hard. He said, "How many times have I told you? You're not allowed to bully Emily anymore. Can't you hear? Since you are so disobedient, it's better to lock you up." After James received the signal, he immediately splashed the red wine on me. Then he called the servant to take me away. I've always been afraid of the dark, but James had the servant lock me in the attic, and he wouldn't let me turn on the light. The night sky felt particularly cold and desolate. I curled up my body and buried my head between my knees. I no longer blame anyone. I just miss my mom and dad. I want to leave this place or never come back again. Miss, when the sunlight shines on me. It's already noon, 12 o'clock. The young masters have gone out. Miss, you should go eat something. Mrs. Brown in the yard has red eyes. I stood up. I almost fell again. I squatted all night. My legs have gone numb. My dress is soaked with red wine. It smells terrible. Miss, how could the young master treat you like this? Mrs. Brown gently wiped away her tears. I patted her hand. Then I limped back to my room. After an hour, I changed into a different outfit. I simply packed my belongings. James was right. Everything I have is thanks to him. So I didn't take any of those valuable things with me, including what Oliver gave me. Everything was left for Emily as a wedding gift. Looking at it this way, isn't my sister generous? Mrs. Brown said anxiously. Miss, you should eat something quickly. I have not been well since I was a child. After all this commotion, he has already developed a high fever. His face is all flushed. It's okay, Mrs. Brown. I forced a smile at her. I quickly took a few bites of rice. No matter if I have an appetite or not, I need to replenish my strength. The journey to the border this time is long. I absolutely cannot fall down halfway. Miss, don't rush. Take your medicine after eating. I prepared some candied fruit for you. No way. The word bitter isn't finished yet. I already swallowed the medicine directly. Mrs. Brown was stunned over the years. Every time I took medicine, I would find an excuse to delay it, but it won't be like that anymore. Mrs. Brown, I have to go now. You need to take good care of yourself from now on. At the moment of parting, I tightly hugged Mrs. Brown after my parents left. I was left with only my brother and Mrs. Brown. Later, I met Oliver. He always followed me. It's been 20 years already, but childhood sweethearts can't compare to sudden fate. This is quite natural. I just don't know why my brother has changed so much. I also don't know if he will be sad to hear that I've left, but that no longer matters. Miss, where are you going? Mrs. Brown held onto me tightly. Her tears flowed uncontrollably. I gently wiped away her tears. I said to her, Mrs. Brown, I'm going to do something very important. You must take good care of yourself. And my brother, please take care of him as well. After saying these farewell words, I picked up my suitcase and turned to leave. Mrs. Brown originally wanted to stop me, but considering my situation at home, she ultimately didn't say anything more. Sophia, what's going on with you? What I didn't expect was, as soon as I reached the door, I ran into James, who was rushing in. Behind him stood Oliver and Emily. The two were happily leaning against each other. I didn't make a scene. I glanced down. James looked quite unhappy. You want to play at running away from home. Sophia, didn't I tell you to know when to stop? You've embarrassed the Smith family. Let me tell you, don't think that just because you have a suitcase, others will beg you to stay. You should leave and never come back. Fine. I forced myself to respond despite the pain inside. Suddenly, a sharp pain struck my heart. Emily seemed to want to say something, but Oliver stopped her. He said, let's go inside. Don't talk to her anymore. The person I once loved the most is avoiding me. I blinked and silently got into the car. This time, many people are going on the mission. After we gathered, we were sent to different places. The scenery outside the car kept changing. I wiped away the tears from the corners of my eyes. This is the best way right now. Without me, Emily can smoothly integrate into that family. My brother no longer has to worry about me hurting his new sister. As for Oliver, he can finally marry the person he loves. This is our best ending, Smith family. Seeing that I really left, James feels quite uncomfortable inside. He has always been very fond of this sister since childhood, but her behavior has indeed been a bit excessive lately. Brother, sister just wants to go out for a walk, to relax a bit. Don't take it too seriously. Emily put away her expression. She sat next to him and softly comforted him. Next to them, Oliver impatiently took out a cigarette and lit it. He feels that I have changed a bit, but he can't pinpoint the exact reason. Emily cleared her throat. Her health has not been good since she met Oliver. He never smoked in front of her, but this time, he seems to completely disregard her feelings. Sophia wouldn't really leave, would she? His heart is in a mess. Grab the keys and go chase after her. James glanced at him. He asked, "Where are you going?" Sophia has never gone out alone since she was a child. Can you really be at ease? Oliver didn't realize the concern that came through in his tone, but Emily noticed. She instinctively frowned. She gently tugged at Oliver's sleeve and said, "Oliver, I'm feeling a bit unwell." Oliver's reaction was indeed not feigned, but he seemed somewhat impatient. He said to Emily, "Emily, you should rest for now. We need to go out and find Sophia. You might not know, she has been spoiled by us since she was little. She can hardly recognize the way." "I'm really worried." He had already controlled his emotions, but Emily still stared at James unwillingly. Her tone was filled with grievance. "Brother, I feel uncomfortable inside. As soon as she arrived, they took everything away from me. She thought, it can still happen now, but James isn't buying it, especially Mrs. Brown." She gave her a meaningful glance to the young master. "Young master, you have given all your affection to this person. Have you ever thought about it? You once promised to make the young lady a true princess. I don't understand what the young lady did wrong. You all keep saying she took something from others, but those things were originally hers. She is the young lady of the Smith family. Is there anything wrong with protecting what belongs to her? Mrs. Brown feels she can't stand it any longer. She has been with the Smith family for so many years. She has seen countless people. Emily's little tricks are simply nothing in her eyes. She doesn't understand. The young master and young Master Oliver, who have always doted on their young lady. What happened this time? How could they do so many baffling things? Brother, Emily sensed the blame in Mrs. Brown's words. She felt particularly upset inside. She thought Sophia lacked nothing. She only took a little. So why are people saying things about her, Oliver? Brother, maybe I should leave for now. The current Emily, when she's unhappy, she never keeps it to herself. James, who has always cared for her, suddenly thought of something. His tone became serious. "Emily, just don't complicate things. Stay safe at home. Oliver and I will go find Sophia." He recalled past feelings from Mrs. Brown's words. He felt a bit regretful. He thought he shouldn't have hit his younger sister, even though she has a bad temper. He also hurt someone who had saved him, but he shouldn't have resorted to violence. Oliver also felt uneasy during this time. He had been carefully protecting Emily. He always felt that Sophia had changed to the point that he couldn't recognize her. But Mrs. Brown's words were like a cold shower. "Wake him up. That's right. Sophia's temper is a result of their pampering. One could even say that. She was born this way. How can he expect Emily to be like that after meeting him? It's unreasonable. It's all my fault." They spoke at the same time. Oliver turned to look at James. "As her brother, you haven't even touched a finger to her since childhood. Why did you hit her a couple of days ago?" His voice sounded hoarse and bitter. James was taken aback. He replied, "Oliver, we're actually quite similar." This little interlude made the following search for her particularly dull, but they still couldn't find me, because at that time, I had already left New York. I was on my way to Los Angeles. Where do you think she could go? At midnight. James couldn't find anyone. He was extremely anxious. He directly punched Oliver. "He is really anxious. It's so late. I blocked them all again. What if something happens? What should we do then? James, are you crazy?" Oliver fell to the ground. He wants to fight back, but James tightly grabs his collar. Oliver struggles hard. The two quickly get into a scuffle. "Brother, Oliver." Emily rushes over. She is startled by the scene. She tries to break them apart. As a result, she accidentally gets hurt. Her forehead gets hit. Emily. Now, both of them have stopped. But neither of them is convinced. They both think it's the other's fault. "That's why I suddenly left." They never thought there was anything wrong with themselves. Or they simply feel they have no problems. "Brother, Oliver, stop fighting. It's all my fault. If you want to hit someone, hit me. Is that okay? If not, then really no. I can divorce Oliver. I'm leaving as long as my sister is willing to come back." Her tears kept flowing down. Oliver is a bit flustered, but he still feels a bit impatient inside. The girl's delicate appearance does make one want to protect her, but if she remains so weak, it can easily become annoying. That's how he feels right now. "Stop crying, Oliver. You take her home. I'm going to find my sister." Compared to Oliver, James appears more composed. The reason he publicly supported Emily back then and recognized her as his sister was because Emily saved his life. She had only one wish. That was to have a proper identity. James felt very sympathetic towards her at that time. He also thought I was being a bit excessive. But ever since his real sister left, that sympathy has become less important. Now, Oliver is also disliked by him. He cannot understand. He is doing it to repay a favor. So what about Oliver? Is he falling for someone else? I want to go too. Emily, you should go back first. Oliver knows nothing about what happened. He insists on following James. He stubbornly sent Emily back home. On the way, neither of them said a word. The atmosphere was even quieter than before. Arriving at the destination, Oliver said angrily, "Emily saved me. She said she had no home. She wanted me to marry her. During that time, Sophia always made things difficult for her. I did those things in a fit of anger. I didn't know she would leave. If I had known, I wouldn't have done it that way." James suddenly stopped. He heard every word clearly. But what does it mean that Emily saved Oliver? There are so many coincidences in this world. She actually saved both of them at the same time. We've been played. James gritted his teeth and voiced his suspicion. Oliver stood frozen in place. It took him a long time to react. He felt a chill all over his body. If what James said is true, then what did he do to me before? James, at that moment, Oliver's voice trembled as he called out. James understood his feelings. He immediately signaled for him to stop talking. At this moment, James couldn't care about anything else. He only wanted to know where I had gone. He went to my teacher's house. Due to his special identity, I have rarely gotten close to anyone since I was little, and I don't have many friends. Their only hope now is over there. The teacher was a bit surprised, but due to a secret mission and confidentiality agreements, she simply told them, "I've gone on a long journey. As for when she will return, no one knows." How is that possible? Where has she gone? I'm her brother. I have the right to know where she is. Me. Oliver opened his mouth, then closed it again. He felt he had no position to speak up. He could only wait for James to ask. "Sorry, I can't tell you." The teacher glanced at them through the crack in the door. He didn't open the door. Recently, the news about the Smith family's adopted daughter has been all the rage. He felt sorry for me inside and didn't want to pay attention to these two odd individuals. "I don't believe it. If you don't tell me, I'll call the police. I'm her brother. If I can't know her whereabouts, then I have to suspect that you took my sister somewhere bad." James was determined not to back down. Oliver's expression also became equally resolute. The teacher looked at him with a strange expression. "Are you not her brother? How come you don't even know where she went? Instead, you come to ask me this, teacher. Don't you think that's very strange? Try reporting it to the police. This mission is a state secret. It's also correct for her not to say anything. No one can do anything to him." Thinking about these things, the teacher directly shut the door. James was turned away for the first time. His expression was quite grim, but he was feeling even worse. He sent many people to look for me. All the places I like or am familiar with, they found no trace of me, including the card he gave me. There were no signs of spending money. He really couldn't find me. Oliver was even angrier. He rushed into the house. He saw Emily sitting on the sofa, happily watching TV, completely devoid of the initial worry she showed. "You're still watching." Oliver kicked the TV and broke it. James sat down beside Emily with a sullen face. He said calmly, "Go ahead. You want me to say it, or do you want to say it yourself?" Emily looked at him with a confused expression. "Ask, what is it?" She appeared very calm. She didn't seem to be lying. James suddenly burst into laughter. Then he tightly grasped her chin. He had just figured everything out. He discovered there was no so-called life-saving grace. That night, Emily collaborated with others. She arranged for people to bump into Oliver and James twice on their route. After that, Emily pretended to rush out to save them again. She used the same tactic twice, because accidents like car crashes are very common, and they did not cause any casualties. So James and Oliver didn't think much of it. They just felt that this little girl was particularly kind, especially her determination to save them regardless of her own safety. And so it was. Emily became familiar with them, but they were unaware of each other's true identities. Later, Oliver suggested marrying someone else. James was quite angry at first, but then he found out the person was Emily, and she had been pleading all along, so he didn't say much more, especially when my behavior seemed inappropriate. He and Oliver both thought I was too willful. They wanted to teach me a lesson. Why? Oliver clenched his fists tightly. His eyes were filled with tears. Now, whenever he thinks of what he did to me recently, he wishes he could slap himself a few times. James even directly slapped himself. I'm really foolish. How could I be so confused? Just because of a life-saving grace, I'm forcing Sophia to compromise. She doesn't owe anyone anything to begin with. She really doesn't owe anyone anything. It's me who has wronged her. James cried out loud. He lost both his parents when he was young. He raised me all by himself. He held me in the palm of his hand. For the sake of Emily, he blamed me for being unreasonable. He even says that everything I have now is given by him. Every word he says pierces my heart. The pain I have experienced now, it's like a boomerang. It has come back to both of us. Oliver ran out like a madman, shouting, "I'm going to find Sophia. I'm getting a divorce." He and that person searched for 3 whole days, searching day and night, but it seems like everywhere has my shadow, yet none of them are me. I really left. I left nothing behind, not even a letter. The only thing they could keep was the memories of the past and the pile of items I didn't take with me. 30 years later, I successfully completed the mission. My body suffered serious injuries. It has become unrecognizable. The country sent a special car to pick me up. After 30 years of effort, I finally waited for my own honor. More than 20 people who went to the border with me back then. Now there are only 5 left. My injuries are the most severe. The other 2 are also in critical condition. Sophia, go ahead. Go accept this honor after returning to a familiar place. They unanimously elected her to go forward and receive this honor. I cried, feeling sad for myself, the ones who returned, even those who didn't come back. All have loved ones waiting for them, and I am all alone. I feel empty behind me, yet it seems like I have everything. I'm walking on this bright path, yet I can't see countless people. After the award ceremony ended, we were sent to the hospital. Perhaps it was due to suddenly relaxing. My body completely collapsed. The doctor always advises me to go out for a walk. He says it's spring now. The scenery outside is beautiful. I touched my face. No answer. The scenery is indeed beautiful, but I haven't felt the beauty for a long time. Sophia. One afternoon, I also waited for my family, James. He is already married, with his wife and children following behind him, and a grandson. I was momentarily stunned. James directly knelt in front of me and said, "Brother, I'm sorry." He has aged. He had to support his waist while kneeling. He looks like he's not in good health. I couldn't say it's okay. He is my brother, the one who always said he would protect me. But he is also the brother who made me endure a lot of pain when I left. Sophia, your brother has had a tough time these years too, so don't blame him. Quickly call your aunt. Quickly call her aunt. Auntie. James's wife is having the child greet me. I'm looking for a chance to help him stand up. I've already come to terms with it. These years have passed. My expectations for family affection have slowly faded away. I've also forgotten many things, whether they were happy or unhappy, so I'm not deliberately trying to make things difficult for James. Just step aside. I'm not here today to seek Sophia's forgiveness. I just want to face my own heart. James is particularly stubborn. He won't let anyone help him. His child has no choice, so they can only kneel beside him. What is going on here? There's some noise outside the door. Oliver has also arrived. I've imagined how he'd become a bit eccentric when he gets older, but seeing it with my own eyes, it still surprised me a lot. Not only has he aged, more importantly, he looks completely disheveled, like a beggar. I'm sorry. As soon as I received the news, I rushed back. I'm still late. Oliver is speaking again. He is holding a bouquet of flowers. They are beautiful bluebells. I rarely open my eyes in surprise like this, because the flowers are blooming beautifully. I really like them. This is for you. Oliver sees my eyes light up. He hands the flowers to me. At that moment, James also woke up. Strangely enough, 2 people who used to be so close started fighting as soon as they met. They blamed each other, especially when they saw my expression. They both felt very sad. That's enough, I spoke up. James was the first to stop. He looked at me with tears in his eyes. Little sister, if it weren't for him doing that at the wedding, you wouldn't have turned out this way. He is really too much. It's obvious. James harbors deep hatred for Oliver. Oliver's attitude is resolute, especially his gaze. It seems to see right through James. It even makes her feel uneasy. Oliver coldly asked, "Have you had enough of this? If you haven't, then go outside and make more noise." I'm feeling particularly irritated after coming back. My head often hurts with all their commotion. It's like 2 mosquitoes buzzing in my ear. I want to drive them away. Even more, I hope they never come back. So, I mentioned Emily. If you're doing this just to prove who treats her better, then just go argue in front of her. 30 years ago, I didn't want to see such childish scenes. Today, 30 years later, I want to see it even less. After saying that, I tiredly closed my eyes. James looked at me. "Sophia, it was because of him back then. That's why you left so decisively. Brother is going to kick her out right now. He wobbled as he tried to take action. Oliver refuses to back down either. So these 30 years, you've always thought it was the other's fault. I watched the leaves falling outside the window. I let out a deep sigh. James. Oliver, I don't want to dwell on who is right or wrong anymore. I'm getting old. I just want to live peacefully for the rest of my days. Don't come back in the future. Right or wrong doesn't matter. It's all in the past. The past cannot be changed anymore. Sophia, Sophia, James and Oliver shouted simultaneously. I pressed the call button. I directly asked them to leave. After that day, the people responsible for my protection no longer let them in. I often stared out the window in a daze. I've gotten used to the old life. Now it's suddenly quiet. Instead, I feel out of place. Oliver noticed this. He will be standing downstairs, doing something surprising. Otherwise, explain to me about Emily. They got divorced. Emily was sent abroad. They won't let her come back. They also don't give her living expenses. A once fragile girl is forced to work everywhere. To make things harder for her, James often troubles her as well. It seems that makes him feel better inside. I find this behavior very childish. Oliver married her. No matter the reason, he should take responsibility, but he did not. Instead, he took pleasure in it. That is simply not gentlemanly enough. A month has passed. Summer has arrived. My health is getting worse. I can't even get out of bed. Oliver and James are competing to take care of me, but I didn't agree to any of them. In the morning, I sneaked out of the hospital. Deep down, I knew my time was limited, but I wanted to choose a place to leave. That place is my parents' grave. People often say, as long as your parents are around, there will be someone who loves you. They left early. Little James took care of me like both a father and a mother. When I grew a little older, Oliver treated me wholeheartedly. I always felt like the happiest person, so even without my parents around, it was okay. On the wedding day, everyone disappointed me. I wasn't the happy child in their eyes. They didn't truly love me. Their kindness towards me could disappear at any moment. But it's okay. I found another path in life. I'm at peace with my country, and I'm at peace with myself. Sophia, the moment I closed my eyes, petals from the grave gently fell on me. The fragrance of flowers filled the air. I seemed to see Mom and Dad. They came to take me home. How wonderful.